It now having arrived at 7 p.m., I'll call this meeting of the Urbana City Council Committee of the Whole to order when once the clerk is available to call the roll.
I actually think this is the first time I've ever held up the show.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Ammons. Mr. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Jacobson.
Here.
Mr. Madigan.
Here.
Ms. Marlin.
Here.
Mr. Roberts.
Here.
Mr. Smythe.
Here.
Mayor Pressing.
Okay. First item of business, approval of minutes of the previous meeting.
So moved. Second.
Any additions or corrections to the minutes? If none, all those in favor of approving, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Ayes have it. Are there additions to the agenda? Hearing none, it's public input is the next item, and I don't have any cards passed to me for public input. One item is coming. So, so we do have Reverend Dr. Evelyn and Bishop King James Underwood, who choose not to address members, but ask that their position be entered into the record as continuing to be concerned about the Dr. Ellis subdivision sewer problem. If there's no other public input, move on to presentations, and in particular, we'll move on to Visit Champaign County. Welcome, please.
Good evening. Thanks for your time. I'm Natalie Kenny Marquez with Community Development, and I am pleased to introduce Jane DeLuce, CEO and President of Visit Champaign County. As you recall, a few months ago, we were here presenting the agreement with Visit Champaign County, and today, Jane, are you kicking off your tour of towns this evening, or close to?
Close to.
Presenting the VCC annual report and some really great little gifts for you up there. So I'll let you take it away, Jane.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for a few minutes to talk about the work that Visit Champaign County has been doing this past year and where we're going. In fiscal year 16, we focused on the evolution from destination marketing to destination management, including the push of a unified brand outside of Ordinary. To highlight our performance, you have a copy of the FY16 annual report, and last time I was here, I had provided copies of the brand new visitor's guide, which showcased Food and Wine's best new beer garden, the Sip Yard, on our cover. To show our appreciation for your continued support, please enjoy your own taste of Champaign County. And yes, those are edible. If you remember last year, I brought flower seeds and everybody thought they were edible. So this year, I actually brought you edible food. So I hope you enjoy it. And the champagne glasses are what we had at our Toast to Tourism this last spring. So I want to start with a quick video that shows the economic impact numbers from this past year. So here are top 5 highlights to remember from fiscal year 16, the year of Evolve. 1, for destination development, we coordinated the committee efforts to rebrand Willard Airport with the I Fly CU campaign, and now working to create a community welcome center in the terminal. We assisted with the kickoff of the Kickapoo Rail Trail. We endorsed Bahamat's grant application for the River Trail project, and we hosted Follow the Farmstead, featuring Urbana local farms. 2, we expanded our local funding with a new hotel partner program, of which 23 hotels are participating this first year. We also started the Visit Champaign County Foundation to support community initiatives, such as bid incentives for the recruitment and retention of events coming to this area. 3, we broadened regional support with new partners coming from Monticello, Arthur, and Allerton Park and Retreat Center, who all offer complimentary restaurants, retail, and attractions for our greater Champaign County area. 4, we booked 74 groups in our sports, meetings, and group tour markets, which is more than 1 group per week. Our efforts focused on new tourism growth markets, including staff coordinating a variety of sales blitzes and participating in trade shows such as the African American Travel Conference, the Active America Travel China Summit, Diversity Marketplace, IPW, and the National Association of Sport Commissions. And 5, we started the Champaign County Film Office to centralize the permitting process that will ease the process for production companies. One such effort resulted in finding the right area to showcase a brand new BMW commercial, which was previewed during the recent Rio Olympics opening ceremonies. Whoop, wrong one. Sorry.
The road to victory has no shortcuts.
That is a good one. Yes, we had that on the wrong one. Okay, see if I can see that real quick. Well, and partly the reason I want to show you is so you can see, here it is. I hit the wrong one.
This chair was built for breaking things, to dismantle, destroy, and dominate. Driven by a will of steel and destined to chase gold. And once every limit has been passed, every expectation smashed, and every record broken, together, we will have built something great. The ultimate driving machine.
And if you recognize where that took place, it was on Old Church Road between 45 and Race. So it was great to see all of that connection that happened here. So our overall goal is to build stronger brand equity, increase visitor traffic, and grow area business. The travel industry has created jobs at a faster rate than any other industry, and 1 of every 9 jobs in the U.S. depends on travel and tourism. Another big item this past year in guiding our efforts moving into fiscal year 17, we created and approved our Destination 2020 strategic plan, which I had shared an electronic copy with you earlier this summer. The key priorities that were established were to choreograph a strategic destination management framework for the entire area, to expand reputation for excellence and credibility, to drive business in our target visitor markets, and to build a sustainable funding model. So moving forward, specific initiatives for fiscal year 17 include expanding the new regional film office, further driving the business meetings and conferences market, coordinating a visioning process for a new innovative museum, furthering the efforts of the Visit Champaign County Foundation, and continuing to strive toward a local funded model. More use of social media, like the Facebook Live videos that we did during Folk and Roots Festival and the one done at Meadowbrook Park, and building a hospitality network to strengthen our local cohesive support among hotels, retail, restaurants, vendors, and attractions. Events-wise, we are hosting the statewide DMO conference for all CVBs this week. We've brought in and are hosting the American Cornhole Organization National Festival with the host hotel at Eastland Suites in November, followed by the return of the IHSA State Football Finals. Then we're bringing in the Illinois Women's State Bowling Tournament over 9 weekends in February and March with 4 of the host hotels in Urbana, plus the return of the IHSA State Wrestling Championships and the Christie Clinic Illinois Marathon. Our success as a destination management organization comes from our strategic partners, which are all listed in your annual report, and our 23 hotel partners, our 3 regional partners, and 31 new foundation partners, along with Meyer, who sponsored the 27th Mile Celebrate Victory Bash in conjunction with the Christie Clinic Illinois Marathon. Our success comes from a hardworking team who produced results, so a shout out to Terry and Cody on the marketing team, Leah and Ryan on the sales team, and Angie, who had been with administration until last week. So I'm looking for a new office manager. It's this small but mighty team that collectively received the honor of Best CVB outside of Chicago from Illinois Meetings and Events. Thank you to the City of Urbana for your gold partnership, and to Natalie, who does a great job serving on our board of directors. We're excited about the future with our new vision to champion the greater Champaign County area as a memorable, extraordinary destination. We appreciate you being a part of that journey. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. Thank you.
Yes, Diane.
Thanks for the great report. You'd mentioned that you're moving to being a locally funded organization, and I know in the past you've just depended a substantial amount on state funding. So where are you in the process of transitioning? And
Up until this year, we were about at 60% with state funding and 40% local, and now it's kind of shifted. It's the other way, that we've gone towards more local support and less dependency on the state dollars.
is the plan to eventually wean off state support, or just waiting?
Illinois is one of the very few states in the U.S. that has state tourism dollars allocated to their DMOs. And so will there be at some point when they're not funding at a state level? This is the state of Illinois. You tell me if that's going to happen. I'm not sure. But at this point, tourism is a strong asset for the state of Illinois, and they recognize that. So we see it continuing through our tourism grants at least for the next handful of years. But since it's and when it comes, it's the other part of it too is, you could get it in July, you might not see it till January of a fiscal year, and just having to play that game of when that funding would ever even come. We have to keep up our efforts because we commit to events and shows and people coming here 2, 3, 4 years out, and then to not be able to have the funding to service that event or to bring that event or to pay that bid incentive for that event. So we have to have secured funding to be able to bring business to this area.
And you mentioned the hotel partners. What percent of the, you said 23 hotel partners right now?
23 hotel partners, yes.
What percentage of the total possible partners is that?
That's,
any idea?
It's about 90%. It's of the ones that, probably about 85. Of the hotels that we actively market, it's all of them. So it's the ones that we want to be partners with us, including the full conference center hotels, and then as many of the select service hotels that we promote.
And one last question: is there a need in terms of accommodations? Are there types of hotels or event spaces that are still needed in this community that you're seeing that we don't have to better accommodate the types of events that you want to bring here?
For the market that we have on facilities, we're at a good place with the number of hotel rooms, which is at about 4,000 right now, give or take. The idea to move us as the community grows and to move us into a larger market right now, like Leah just came back from the small market meetings, to be able to go to mid-market meetings, we have to have a bigger meeting space. We can only accommodate what we have in our conference centers by what we have now. And so we're not, what people want for a larger one is a hotel that has an adjacent conference center that can accommodate like up to 1,000 people. So should the development happen that Hans is working on in downtown Champaign, that puts us into a whole different market that we haven't been in before. And the other hotels will complement then those markets coming in because it would be more people.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Bill.
Yeah, thanks. I think you're doing a great job putting a positive face on the community and setting the priorities for VCC. was wondering, I know there's a lot of economic development potential from visitors from the VCC activity besides the tourism industry itself. I'm thinking that there's a lot of visitors here for sporting events and for conferences and everything that may see your materials, but then not where we really weren't on their radar before for maybe locating a business or doing an expansion or a customer service center or whatever. There's a lot of business people that come here for other events that haven't really thought of us in that respect, but then may start thinking of us after they see your material and get more familiar with the community. I was wondering if you had any kind of indications, either stories or if there's any way to measure that, or how conscious are you of that, and do you design your materials toward that as well?
The materials we currently designed, like the visitor's guide and the billboards, are for first-time, really geared towards first-time visitors, whether they're here for business or for leisure. The goal, though, for anyone bringing their business here is kind of a different subset of materials that we do on the side, but not as actively publicly. Because, if you have a billboard, of course it's going to be like, we want you to come live here, but we want you to come visit here first. So we kind of geared to be the front door to economic development, and then we work with our friends at the Economic Development Corporation and the Chamber of Commerce to recruit new business that will be coming here. And I think as a community, we can even collectively do better at those relationships, so that if we hear, I think, the biggest success story, even right here in Urbana, was with Mark Braultz. I think about him. He came here to run the marathon and decided to open an Einstein's Bagels, and look how successful it's been that now he has multiple locations. He's a terrific success story, and there are more of those. So we would focus more on the Mark kind of stories, whereas to fill the warehouses and the manufacturing industry is going to be more likely to be with efforts from like what the EDC might be doing.
Right. Yeah,
So.
I'm thinking people probably wouldn't, people would approach the EDC if we're already one of the considerations that they're thinking about, but a lot of times they'll just kind of come up in everyday activity. I think a lot more things happen that way than we might think.
Right. There's definitely a lot of stories in that regard, and I think collectively, if we show the Unity expanded air service for the airport, we're all three organizations, along with a lot of other entities, looking to do that collectively, so that they understand to say we need expanded air service here. And this is kind of a fun one. Everyone wants Portillo's here. As soon as that rumor was coming about, us collectively all said, you need to bring a Portillo's to Champaign County, and that's happening. Is it only because of the efforts that we did? No, they were interested in the market as well, but it helped enhance it that we would be welcome for new business here. So air service and hot dogs, what a combo.
Thanks.
And a lot more stories. You're absolutely right, Bill.
Yeah, Charlie.
Yeah, Jane, not to repeat others, so I'll jump into a new topic here. The impact of the University of Illinois and its ups and downs. They're definitely in a down cycle with the state funding situation. Sports could be better, can you measure, tease out the impact of the University of Illinois and its different events over the year and how those impact tourism dollars?
It's easier to impact actual events. If you win a football game, you're going to have more hotel rooms. If you lose a game on Saturday against Purdue, I can tell you what the hotel occupancy is going to look like for the next home game. Those are a lot easier to measure. The other aspects of loss of funding, loss of faculty, not coming here, or there's other support that's happening that will keep those measures happening here. So I think we have, as a community, have to not always depend on the success of what seems outward with the athletics program. That's going to be a natural highs and lows. But for the other things that are happening here and the research initiatives that are happening here, the number of international students and faculty and people that
I'm thinking in terms of those small conferences and things that the
Absolutely.
faculty generate.
Yes.
The
Yeah,
reputation of the U of I generates a certain
We've actually applied for a second grant that we're partnering with the university specific to the Chinese tourism market. That's a very high indicator of nationally what's happening in the world of Chinese tourism, that we're looking at that and how we can look at what those efforts are collectively. If we have people that are already going to those markets, we can't afford to be able to do that, but we can say, here are the materials that when you're there, which you're talking to them, here's the efforts that we can do to help bring that business here, whether it's a conference on a regular basis or whether it's actually to do further business here. So there's lots of and with the efforts with the research park, there's a lot of collaboration that we haven't been able to measure completely, but it's happening. It's definitely.
Yeah, it'd be nice to be able to see what those impacts are, if there's any way to tease those out. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? Charlie, could you take the chair for a second? So like other people who travel in and out fairly frequently, I'm very concerned with the air travel situation, and I guess what one might call the bottleneck in air travel, because if we were to have, for example, a very large meeting, it would just be impossible for everybody to fly in. So in that context, do you, you want to promote the airport, but do you also, in outreach to potential people to have this as a destination, do you also point out alternative ways to get here?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it is a larger conference, we're flying at 85% capacity. So it's not that our planes are flying empty. We just need more flights.
Right.
And so with that, at this point, what we work with people from, whether they're coming in for a smaller conference or a larger conference, because it just depends on whatever that business is, we will work with them to say, you know, it's this flight from Bloomington, this flight from Indy, from St. Louis, Chicago. Here's what you can do when you get there, or if you want to fly into that area, and then there's shuttles that could be able to go there. We're going to promote Willard Airport first. But I think that's kind of the whole mantra of Willard, is to say, at least check it first.
Right.
It's not going to meet everybody's needs, but we need to support our local airport first, but we definitely suggest alternatives. We'll take them any way they'll come. Another big aspect is Amtrak. Hello, we're an Amtrak stop. So
Right.
how do we continue to promote and keep rail service not only, you know, current, but the threats that happen for lack of rail service, and they want to take some of those lines or have a less, you know, we're right in there fighting for that as well, because that's huge not only in our business market, but that's huge in our leisure market as well.
Okay, I'll take it back.
Yeah,
Any
which-
other
Yeah,
questions or comments? Yes, Charlie.
yeah. The issue with Amtrak is near and dear, since I use it on a regular basis. You know, the biggest thing there is they're just never on time. You know, and you know, they may make up the time because they pad it so much getting to Chicago or getting southward, but in between it's just not very dependable, and that continues to be a sore point. I recall that American was supposed to be moving to larger jets. Flightstar is going to, I guess, is going to continue contracting and working on those. How's that coming along? When will we see those larger jets?
My understanding is it could be within the next year, and they've created the facility to be able to accommodate the larger planes, and they're going through the training at this point to be able to accommodate the larger planes. But there's also a nationwide trend on regional airports and what's happening with those and which ones stay afloat. So Gene Cossey, the new airport director, could better answer that than me, but my understanding is that it'll be coming within the next year or so. So then we have then, you know, back to the point of filling the airplanes and being able to have more business here, we'll be able to utilize those larger planes for that.
There's always the price point.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jane.
Next item is staff report, and I believe we have one from community development, the business and development report.
I just have an announcement before the Business and Development Report. This Saturday, coming up October 15th, is our Neighborhood Cleanup Saturday. And so we are once again going to do 2 locations, one at across from King School and one at Dart, across from Dart on University Avenue. And that would be from 8 a.m. till 2. So I think that's Main Street on Dart. So if you want to participate, feel free to contact Randy Burgett. You don't need to participate for the whole entire time, but if you're interested in coming by and saying hello to constituents at those 2 locations, you're more than welcome. And residents who are eligible for the drop-off will have received a postcard that they can use as their ticket to come in and bring 1 load of junk and debris. Okay?
Good evening. I'm going to go over the highlights of the September Business and Development Report. First, congratulations again to Natalie Kenny Marquez, who was selected as a Central Illinois Business Magazine 40 Under 40 recipient, was honored at the luncheon recently. I don't know if she can hear that we're bragging on her, but she does great work. Open Scene, the National Endowment for the Arts funded program that's a partnership between the City of Urbana and IMC, is progressing. We are currently accepting applications for youth participants. The adult participant deadline is just passed, and those participants should be announced soon. There's an open house coming up that's open to the public at IMC this coming Saturday from 5 to 7 p.m. We hope to have all the adult stakeholders there and continue our recruitment of youth for the program. Again, the youth have to be ages 16 to 24, and the nominations and applications for youth are available through November 1st. And so again, adults can nominate youth, and youth can also directly apply. Coming up in October as well, before our next report, on the 25th will be the next Urbana Food Truck Rally at the Civic Center from 11 a.m. to 2. And November 3rd and 5th will be the CU Folk and Roots Festival in downtown Urbana. In current projects, New Med RX, the medical cannabis dispensary, is progressing with their work and should be open before much longer. Schnucks at Urbana Crossing off of Vine Street has submitted plans, and it is now underway for about a $900,000 renovation of the store. 25 O'Clock Brewery has been issued permits at 208 West Griggs for the beer garden, and I believe they've already created the opening for the entrance, which is now facing the Boneyard Creek crossing area. And we had a business close its location in Lincoln Square. That's Dr. G's Brainworks. They have relocated their full operation to the mall in Champaign. Burger King has been issued its permit. There's actually an update beyond what's on your report for the construction of a new building at University Avenue. The foundation's already in. And Starbucks is completed and open at Gregory Place East, and that really, I believe, completes the commercial tenant occupation of both of the Gregory Place developments on campus. Leek & Sons Funeral Home was also issued its permit and is now underway. Eastland Apartments completed their 40 new residential units at 1905 North Cunningham. Out on Philo Road, Midwest Scuba occupied a tenant space in Sunnycrest Mall. I'm not really sure where they go scuba diving at. I'm curious to know. Where?
Quarries.
In Quarries. That's interesting. And Planet Fitness has also completed its renovation and is now open. Mm-hmm. To date, there's been 5 residential 1- and 2-family projects with a total of 28 units that have applied under the Think Urbana incentive program. And again, those are those that have been issued permits this construction season. And then year-to-date, Champaign County home sales are roughly on par with where they were in 2015. I take any questions you might have.
Yes, Diane.
Can you maybe expand on the 28 units for those residential 1 and 2 family projects? When you say project, is that like a bunch of duplexes is considered one project, or?
So the most substantive one is the Urbana Townhomes, the Highland Green development, which is, quite a few units in and of itself. I don't know the exact split. Not every home or residential unit in that development is eligible for the incentive, because part of the area coincides with TIF District 4, and property tax abatements and enterprise zone are not compatible if it's also in a TIF district. So I don't know the exact breakout, but when a project is submitted, we mean a building permit. So it can be aggregated into a larger number of units in a single project.
So how many of these units are Highland Green and how many are other?
I don't know the exact breakout, but I'd say roughly 20.
20 of the 28 are Highland Green.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I can tell you there are about 7 or 8 new units at Southridge and about 3 new ones in Stone Creek. And Stone Creek sold about 8 or 10 lots. Not all of them are under construction yet.
Okay.
Yeah, and these figures don't account for lot sales that would likely yield a permit next construction season.
So 7 houses or so.
Okay. Further questions, comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I don't know that there are any other staff reports, or? Nope. Okay. So moving on to ordinance number 2016-10-096, revising the annual budget ordinance, capital improvement and VERFRE budgets, and this will be the Finance Department.
Before we get a little more into the details, I did want to point out that in the packet, it appears that the 5 pages that make up Exhibit A follow the memo, but those are actually an exhibit for the ordinance. So just to make sure that's clear, it's a little bit out of order. And there's another page in there that provides, the 6th page there provides a little more detail on some of the changes for items moving between VERF and general fund, but that's not technically part of the ordinance. So there are quite a few changes here. In the general fund, there are some rebudgets, so items that were budgeted or committed in FY16 but not spent that need to be rolled forward into FY17, and many of those are moving between funds, so things that up until the current fiscal year would have been budgeted in the Vehicle and Equipment Replacement Fund or the Supplemental Capital Improvement Fund, but because of changes that we made in the FY17 budget no longer belong there. There are, the bulk of items here are rebudgets for capital improvement projects and for equipment, and those are in the Capital Replacement and Improvement Fund, the Stormwater Utility Fund, the Local Motor Fuel Tax Fund, the Motor Fuel Tax Fund, the Equipment Services Fund, and the Vehicle and Equipment Replacement Fund, and several other funds. I don't think I need to list them all for you. In the Social Services Fund, there is a small rebudget related to emergency tenant relocation. So again, funds that were budgeted in FY16 but not spent. There are some changes in the CD Special Fund, and the largest increase there is to provide adequate funding for 2 neighborhood cleanups annually. Only one was budgeted last year, and there have also been price increases that affect the cost of the neighborhood cleanups. And then finally, in the Central TIF Fund, there is an increase of $44,000 related to an amendment to a development agreement that was approved by the City Council. I believe that was last week. So there's a lot of detail. I won't give you everything, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay. Questions or comments? Charlie?
I tried to go through and understand most of them. I think I do. And the bottom line is that not everything that was allocated last year is getting spent. If I'm understanding page 1, we have a 142,000 left over that goes into reserve.
Oh, yeah. So last year we started the practice of designating a portion of the general fund balance for replacement of computer equipment. So the IT division budgets a level amount every year for replacement of things like PCs and printers. However, the expenditures aren't actually level each year. So at the end of each year, whatever is remaining of that budgeted amount, we reserve for the year in the future when we will have larger expenditures.
Any other? Okay. Yes, Charlie.
I'll move to send this to council with recommendation for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Diane has seconded. Okay. Moved by Smythe, seconded by Marlin. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Next item. Ordinance number 2016-09-087, an ordinance vacating a certain portion of right-of-way, Bar Avenue west of North Cunningham Avenue, and this comes from Public Works.
Thank you for your time this evening. I'm Brad Bennett, Assistant City Engineer. What you got before you is a partial vacation request for Cunningham Avenue for Bar Avenue west of Cunningham Avenue. It would be the north side of Bar Avenue. We're looking at some right-of-way vacation. We've had a request by the owner of 302, 304, 306, 308, and 310 Bar for the vacation of a portion of the right-of-way. Just a couple facts to point out. The houses along Bar Avenue were built extraordinarily close to the street, so this right-of-way vacation will give some additional buffer to the houses. I also want to point out that Bar Avenue is a dead-end street. West of Cunningham Avenue, there is no connection to the Crystal View townhomes. Per our standard operating procedure on right-of-way vacation, we did contact all city departments as well as all utilities to assess the impact of the right-of-way vacation on them. And the city has no plans to add sidewalk along Bar Avenue or do any widening of the Bar Avenue. So from the Public Works standpoint, we have no need for the portion of right-of-way that's being vacated. We also checked with the fire department, and they have no concerns about public safety regarding the right-of-way vacation. With the utility companies, there ended up being 2 utilities that were close to the portion of the right-of-way to be vacated. We took it a step further to actually having those utilities field locate where their lines were, and we did assign a certain portion of the vacated right-of-way to function as an easement for ITV3, the fiber optic utility there. But we did not assign the entire portion of the vacated right-of-way to the easement, just essentially the portion of the vacated right-of-way that the utility will need to maintain and repair their fiber optic utility in the future. With that, I'll open it up if there's any questions.
Yes, Mike, please.
I would move approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Bill?
Yeah, do you know, it looked like those last 3 houses are pretty old. The 4th house looks like it was probably built in the late 70s, early 80s. Do you know when the setback requirements came into play? Because they may have gotten a variance, but it seems like setback would have been in place by then, wouldn't it?
Well, I'll have to defer that one to Libby Tyler. That would be more of a zoning question. I'm not sure on that. Libby, do you want to comment on that?
I'd have to look in our database to be sure, but I think these were built in the county. So I'd have to look and see, were any of these built under the city regulations, and were there any variances granted? certainly none in the 25 years that I have recollection of our planning activity. So,
And then the fifth lot is also zoned commercial. There's just a garage there now. I understand that the other two lots that we originally had the request for, because they have commercial use, we can't do it in the same ordinance as these right away. But that other one's zoned commercial and has a garage on it. Is that still considered residential use, and we can approve the vacation for that one?
I did check with the legal staff, and we felt that all the lots, which would be the 302 through 310, did meet the qualification for being exempt from any fees for the value of the vacated portion of the right-of-way.
Okay, and then
The two properties that we're deferring for now would be the 312 and 314
Right.
Bar Avenue. And obviously, we've got the issue there with, we'd have to determine the value of the vacated portion of the right-of-way. And additionally, there's some research that needs to be done to exactly define what is city right-of-way as we approach Cunningham Avenue and what is actually IDOT right-of-way, because we can't give away, a portion of IDOT's right-of-way. We'd only be able to vacate our own right-of-way. So we would need to further define what exactly our right-of-way is relative to IDOT's.
okay, and then I know it said there were no plans for a sidewalk there. We are missing connectivity for that, for both Highland Green and for Crystal View Townhomes. I understand there's a long-range plan for the trails to go along the saline there, but this is an easy option to put in a sidewalk there, so we would be giving up something. I think that's worth considering. And then finally, this letter from Meyer Capel mentions the easement for drainage. Why wouldn't we, if this is part of the negotiations for the easement, why wouldn't we put the easement and this right-of-way vacation in an agreement and have it signed instead of doing the right-of-way agreement and then hoping they give us the easement?
Well, any property owner in the city of Urbana can request a right-of-way vacation. Typically a right-of-way vacation isn't tied to, as a condition to an easement. So this is kind of an unusual case. And I think it's just a matter of a fact that the property owner doesn't want to agree to sign the drainage easement until the city has vacated the right-of-way.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, go
yeah, the drainage easement is actually essential for the Highland Green project to proceed because of the topography of the site. There's no practical, economical way to re-engineer Highland Green to work without that simple drainage easement. And we've been working, Brad in particular has been working diligently for several months to work out that agreement. And again, there's really no way to replan the Highland Green and no way to meet our stormwater requirements without that particular easement. We've had several meetings, been able to accommodate, concerns, dealing with potential future development of the Scott's property and some assurances for them on what they would need to do to provide for drainage. And the easement and the Highland Green development will benefit them in that regard. But the request for Bar Avenue was came late in the process, and if we were to know, early on that these were the things that were necessary, we might have been able to do a broader agreement. But we are really needing, because of the funding and the financing on Highland Green, we are needing to quickly remove obstacles to the development if it is to occur as it's structured.
And just to point out as well, there will be a pedestrian connection between the new Highland Green development and the Crystal View townhomes. It'll be more in kind of the middle of the Highland Greens development rather than if it was along Bar Avenue, it would actually be, you know, south of where Highland Greens is. So there will be a point of connection there where people would be actually able to get up and connect to the sidewalk system along Kerr Avenue.
Yeah, Bill?
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I know that that's part of the plan is so that they can share the facilities at Crystal View. The problem is, and I mentioned this before, if you're going from any of the southern half of the new Highland Green development and most of Crystal View townhomes, if you're trying to get to Walgreens and have to go up to Kerr Avenue and then over to Cunningham and then back down to Walgreens, you're adding about a quarter of a mile. And we're talking about 33 units, 9 of them are going to be one-story, one-bedroom units set aside for veterans. Presumably some of the veterans might be disabled using wheelchairs. Maybe anybody living in Crystal View is already disabled or just have mobility problems. An extra quarter mile is quite a bit. I mean, that's almost twice as far as if you could go through a shortcut. And, you know, I measured it from here. If you walk from here to Walgreens, it's actually closer than it will be for those people up there living in the southern part of the Highland Green development to have to go up to Kerr and over to Cunningham and back down to Walgreens. Now, I'm not pushing Walgreens or maybe other places people want to go, but I'm just pointing out that without those shortcuts and that connectivity, it makes a huge impact. And so, you know, I don't want to hold up the development or anything, but I'm a little confused why we couldn't have done a written agreement if we're that dependent on this stormwater easement, and I can see the conditions where we would need stormwater drainage there, then why wouldn't we put it in writing? I don't know.
Just to expand on what Bill was saying about the connectivity, and I did bring my comprehensive plan tonight because the need for that connection was known years ago when we did our 2005 comprehensive plan, and we knew that Bar was an obstacle, and there's also topography, so we did show a greenway connection between the old Lakeside Terrace, which is now Crystal View Townhomes, connecting across the north side of the saline ditch over to Cunningham, and ultimately to cross Cunningham to connect Crystal Lake Park with Chief Chamaga Park. And if you look at the development of Crystal View Townhomes, they've actually constructed a good portion of that walkway along the north side of the saline. The purpose of that walkway, and they also have sidewalks in Crystal View, is that first leg of that connection. So we were planning for east-west connectivity for these developments, just not at the Bar location. And again, there were geometric constraints for that. So we did follow that alignment in the comprehensive plan and planning both the Crystal View Townhomes and the Highland Green projects. The location of Walgreens wasn't known actually at the time that we were working on Crystal View Townhomes. It's really difficult to get connectivity when you are looking at the last infill properties in an area that's already been developed, and not only already developed, but developed according to non-urban standards or antiquated standards. So it's a challenge, but we struggled with it specifically during the comprehensive plan. We looked specifically at that area and how we would get that connectivity, and we chose that alignment along the saline. And hopefully, there is an intervening home. There's still some property that, in order to make the full connection, would need to be gone around or redeveloped in some fashion. But, it's not a perfect connectivity plan, but that is what we followed.
Further, yes, Charlie.
Yeah, well, to extend that right now, just looking at the map that's provided, the sidewalks that are behind Highland Greens on the north side of the homes are the sidewalk is like about 10 or 20 feet short of a public alley. You could theoretically finish or run a sidewalk that 10 or 20 feet, run a sidewalk along the public alley, and then put something along the south side of Bar Avenue there to get out to Cunningham Avenue. And I don't know, the right-of-way line that I'm seeing here basically goes across somebody's roof line here, so I'm a little not sure exactly how accurate these things are, but it'd be good to know if we can put a sidewalk on the south side between the public alley and Cunningham Avenue. And then, of course, complete a sidewalk via the public alley into that north side of the existing sidewalk. That'd be an alternative to punching through the Greenway, which long term I think is a great idea of connecting the two parks via something. Though it'd probably take an underpass as well to cross Cunningham Avenue to make that really successful.
Okay. Staff response to Charlie's points?
Well, I mean, Bar Avenue is a fairly limited space. I mean, it might be possible to fit a sidewalk in there, but it is a fairly narrow right-of-way through there. The other thing, in discussions with the property owner, the property owner that owns all those properties is very opposed to having sidewalks along Bar Avenue. In fact, they were pretty insistent upon, not wanting sidewalks in any discussions that we had with them.
I've got a question.
Yeah, Dennis.
And so what's the condition of the public alley? Is that, it almost looks like it's been vacated, but apparently if it's labeled public alley, that is still a working alley and is a dead end?
It is a dead end down to the saline, but the city still owns and maintains the alley.
So that could be a potential pedestrian pathway. The problem would be getting into the townhomes to use the pathway that is on the rear end of the townhome that arches up into a curve north.
Well, and I guess just to point out, there is a fence along the south edge of Bar Avenue that was constructed by the property owner along Bar Avenue, and there's probably about an 8 to 10 foot elevation drop off. So there really isn't a connection between the south side of Bar Avenue and the townhomes. You'd almost have to have a stairs and take down a portion of the fence in order to make that connection. So really the two properties, the properties along Bar Avenue and the Crystal View townhomes are not connected in any means, and it would be difficult for people from the Highland Green development to be able to utilize Bar Avenue because they would have to go through the intervening properties that are owned along the north side of Bar Avenue, and I believe those are fenced along the north side of their property lines. So,
but what Charlie was suggesting was not a bad idea. If this is a public access walkway through a neighborhood, it connects driveways as well. If it was connected just last 12 feet to meet the public alley, which is then also available to people as a pedestrian pathway, it would connect to it would connect halfway down in Bar Street, and it would allow you to go to Cunningham Avenue.
Even without a sidewalk.
Even without a sidewalk, that's right. Could be
Correct.
a gravel path.
yes.
I mean, that's another way to connect. I mean, what we're having here, it sounds like, is the same issue that has been plaguing the Learman neighborhood at Aspen Court, who have to jog a half a mile to get to a location on South Philo Road that takes 3 minutes if you go through the fence. So, is there a logical way to avoid that is what we're asking, I'm thinking. Now, that would require us to negotiate with the townhome site to open up the end of that drive, or I don't know if there's a gate or a fence on this side, but if it's not, if this is considered a public access street and not a private street or a sidewalk, That's one way people could actually access Cunningham Avenue by not walking up to Kerr.
Yeah, I think it would be possible, but I think that, once again, I think there's some, you'd actually have to shift it a little bit further south, closer to the creek to make that connection point, because, you know, once again, there's a pretty significant elevation drop between the public alley and the Crystal View Townhomes project. It's really not until you get further south, close to the sailing there, that I think you could really extend going east without elevational issues.
Well, it's worth looking at.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have the answer necessarily, but we have the question.
Mm-hmm.
So, further questions or comments? What is the committee's pleasure as far as this ordinance? Oh, do we actually, maybe the motion was already made and seconded. Okay. In favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay. And now we move to ordinance number 2016-10-098, an ordinance approving an amended and restated right-of-way license agreement with Metro Communications Company. And again, this is Public Works.
Thank you again. I'll try to keep this one short and sweet. Metro Communications has an existing license agreement with the city for fiber optic telecommunication facilities. The latest agreement dates back to July 20th, 2015. The company wishes to expand their service area, and as part of that are coming and seeking a new license agreement for that expansion. The good news for the expansion is that the conduit for the fiber optic expansion was actually installed as part of the campus communications install along Florida Avenue, so there won't have to be any new directional boring. They'll just be able to pull their fiber optic utility through existing conduit. So this is an example of where we were able to get utilities to do a joint install, and you won't have a fiber optic company coming and tearing up the right of way. They'll just be pulling their cables through some existing conduits. So the license agreement is kind of our standard license agreement that the legal division draws up, and I would like to give my thanks to Jim and to Kurt for their efforts on the license agreement. Any questions?
Diane.
Is that on page 3 of 3, is that path C1 down Race Street on the west side or the east side of Race Street?
I believe it is, let me find it. I believe it is on the west side, on the university side. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And that, just to point out, that's actually existing. They installed that as part of the 2015 agreement.
So this isn't new.
Yeah,
Oh,
this is not new. The only new fiber is along Florida Avenue from Lincoln to Philo. But like I said, they'll be using existing conduit that was installed by Campus Communications Group previously for them.
Yes, Dennis.
Does the owner of the original cable that was laid, conduit, get any remuneration for sharing the conduit that they paid for to have it put in the ground?
Not from the city. I don't know what sort of agreement they have between the two telecommunications company, how they cost shared it, or
would it be commonly cost shared?
Yeah, like I said, I don't have any details as far as what the agreement was between the two utility companies, but I would hope or speculate that there was some cost savings to them for doing that.
Thanks.
Okay. Other, yes, Mike.
Move approval.
It's been moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Now, ordinance number 2016-10-099, an ordinance approving a right-of-way license agreement with Consolidated Communications Enterprise Services, Inc., again, Public Works.
Thank you again. So what this is another license agreement for fiber optic telecommunications facilities. This ordinance is actually for facilities that were installed by Champaign Telephone Company. in various locations throughout Urbana. Most of these are existing facilities. There is one exception where they are proposing a new facility on Kenyon Road, just west of, I think, Federal Drive. So that is the one new location. All the other locations are existing ones that were previously installed by Champaign Telephone Company. Now, Champaign Telephone Company was recently purchased by Consolidated Communications. So because of the ownership change, as well as wanting to add the new facility on Kenyon, there has to be a new license agreement executed for that. So that's what we've got before you this evening. You know, once again, this is our standard boilerplate license agreement with all the terms and conditions approved by Legal Division. Once again, thank Jim and Kurt for their efforts on this. Is there a representative from Consolidated that wanted to possibly come up and talk? And maybe I can let them talk a little bit about the merger between Champaign Telephone Company and Consolidated Communications. Just want to give them your name and position.
Hi, I'm Mike Hosier from formerly Champaign Telephone, now an employee of Consolidated Communications. So this is really just a formality of changing this license agreement over to Consolidated. It's wrapping in some existing sites, and then we have one new one, as Brad said, to Reynolds Towing on Kenyon Road.
Mike?
I'd move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Yes, Charlie.
Yeah, having seen a bunch of these through the years, never turning them down really, I wonder about our process that brings these to council. And so at some point I'd like to get some feedback from staff about how to streamline this and quit doing.
We'd be glad to do that.
Yeah, let's figure out a way to streamline this.
I'd agree with that.
I figured you would. It just seems like we waste a lot of time on this, and it's always boilerplate. We should be able to come up with a better mechanism. Thank you. I know it's important to get the license agreements, to get the plans, to know what's in the right of way and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's not like we ever deny these. So,
Mike.
I would absolutely agree with Charlie, and that's refreshing to hear. Imagine, so we waste time. Imagine what the businesses waste in terms of time and resources to try to comply. So maybe there can be some kind of best practice that staff could research that other cities have done to try to streamline the process.
Okay. Okay, well, for the moment, I'll streamline the process by immediately asking everybody in favor to say aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes have it. Next, we have a resolution number 2016-10-064R, resolution authorizing an amendment to Construction Engineering Services Agreement, specifically amendment to the engineering agreement regarding High Cross Road, Illinois Route 130 between University and Florida Avenue, and again, Public Works.
go ahead. I'm going to move it quickly.
I'll spare details unless you want to know more about it, but this is cleanup work, to be honest with you. The project is done. There was $50,000 assigned for engineering services. We need a little more money to pay off the consultant, and it's all Illinois Jobs Now money. So we just have to amend the agreement.
Move approval. Move to send to council.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I do have one
Yes,
comment.
Mike? Yes.
So, Bill, I continue to be concerned about the grade of on the corner, the northwest corner of Washington and 130. It's very high. It impedes as you are eastbound, trying to turn north onto, or frankly, to go any direction. When you are sitting at the intersection of Washington and 130, the grade on the northwest corner is very, very high. And I'm just not sure how it ended up being an acceptable standard. It literally makes people pull out almost into the intersection to see north. And I know that one day that'll be controlled, But even at a controlled intersection, I would think it's just an inappropriate grade. Again, not a traffic engineer, but the ground there must be 10 feet high, where the power pole is in the ground. So I don't know what the standard is or what the remedy is, but I just think from a traffic safety standpoint, it's just not the best situation. That should have been, in my opinion, brought down to a grade where a person sitting in a car could see the oncoming traffic, but the way it is today, you cannot.
Maybe we could go out there sometime and look at it.
Sure. Okay. Any further discussion? We've moved and seconded. In favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Finally, resolution number 2016-10-065R, a resolution to approve an intergovernmental cooperative agreement between the City of Urbana and the University of Illinois, specifically an agreement regarding increased and maintenance of lighting on Springfield Avenue between Wright Street and Goodwin Avenue. Again, Public Works.
Thank you. This is an interesting request that we received from the University of Illinois in that they expressed an interest to upgrade the streetlight fixtures on this stretch of Springfield between Wright and Lincoln Avenue. Basically, they were willing to pay the material costs to replace those fixtures, to upgrade them, and that Public Works Electric Forces would do the work, which we said, yes, we'd be willing to do that. We had no specific plans to replace those lamps in the near term. So it's strictly a fixture replacement. We've gotten some proposals from companies that provide this type of equipment. That would be an LED fixture. The cost should be around $6,000 for the materials, which they said they would pay for. And like I mentioned, we would do the work. So there's a memorandum type agreement here, which we've reviewed, and there's no, I guess, precedent-setting nature here, but on the other hand, I thought it was good for in our interest and in university interest.
Okay. Charlie?
Yeah, quick question, Bill. I know the idea here is to make it a little brighter, I suspect. It says better light quality and light coverage, so better
Yes.
spread this way, a little brighter, but at the same time, there's always the issue of making it too bright and creating glare bombs and stuff like that. So, and there are the standards that we discussed many years ago about what those levels should be.
Right.
So, is this being done to the appropriate lighting level?
It is, yeah. It's going to be a much more uniform lighting level, but I have to tell you the pole spacing is not uniform. So there is going to be some dips, if you will, in some of the light levels, the illumination, but generally it's going to be better than what's there now. And right now you have, non-cutoff fixtures, and these would be cutoff fixtures also. So it'll be better uniformity, better light color, be able to see better than what's there now, but it's not going to be perfect, but it'll be an improvement.
I figured all that, but I'm also concerned that we turn night into day and create.
It's not going to be that noticeable.
Okay, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yes, Dennis?
Will this project be the replacement of just the light head, or is it the pole itself?
No, it'll be just the fixture, which is the light head.
Okay, so it's not an opportunity to do some kind of maybe cost share upgrade of the poles so that we might consider this streetscape beautification step, which obviously Springfield is an entrance into the city from the campus of the university. Would we? Improving the lighting is one thing, but if we were able to, if they were going to include a different kind of pole fixture or something which might be sturdy enough to hold community banners or some other future use of the poles as they approach the city, that would be a useful conversation. Doesn't sound like that's part of our agreement here.
Yeah, that would be wonderful to do. The poles are the cities, the roads the cities. They approached us to change out the fixtures. That's what's before us tonight.
So
someday
basically-
that'd be great, but meanwhile, we are looking to replace the Ceres street lighting, west of Lincoln Avenue, south of Green Street. So originally Green Street was included. MCOR is going to take care of and upgrade those poles, so there'll be a better light system and new poles. But around Krannert now we're back into the design. So the consultant was on hold for a while since late 2014. So I just met with them a couple of weeks ago. So they're going to start back up on the design. So it'll probably be 2 phases. One phase would be Oregon, Gregory, Illinois, between Matthews and Lincoln. The second phase would be Nevada, Matthews, again starting at Lincoln in kind of an L-shaped project, Matthews all the way up to Springfield. That'd be a second project. So that's what's in the works. But no, Springfield is not, believe it or not, it's newer lighting than what we have south of Green. But yes, that would be nice to upgrade that someday.
Okay, thank you then.
Oh, I'm sorry. Diane?
I'm happy to get what we can get, so I move resolution number 2016-10-065R to council with a recommendation for approval.
Second.
Okay, moved by Diane, seconded. I'm going to give Aaron the second because he hasn't been as active tonight. And anybody, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There being no further business, and if there's no objection, I declare this meeting adjourned.
Can I make a statement right quick?
Sure.
Just wanted to say as an announcement about the expungement workshop that's coming up on October 22nd to everyone who's listening at home about how important it is for people with felony convictions or misdemeanor convictions to sign up for this. And I wanted to give a shout out to Chief Connolly and to the Urbana Police Department for stepping up in the gap when there's so many people who have registered for this expungement workshop. It's so needed in the community that they ran out of, they couldn't sustain the number of appointments that were being made at the Sheriff's Department to actually do the fingerprinting necessary for the program. And our police department stepped up, Chief Connolly and those stepped up to fill in the gap for that. So I wanted to publicly thank you for that, Chief.
Okay, great. Any other important announcements? Okay, good. Now we really adjourned.